Today, we will discuss in detail verse 2 of Sarga 1, Sutra Patanaka Varnanam, from the Yoga Vashistha Maharamayana. Welcome, seeker of knowledge. I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through this profound explainer today. We're going to dive deep into one of the most foundational texts of Advaita Vedanta, which is the philosophy of non-duality. And hey, if you've never studied the Yoga Vashistha before, don't worry at all. We're going to build your understanding right from the ground up, visualizing these ancient concepts, step by step. It's going to be a fascinating journey.
So here is our path of inquiry today. We'll journey all the way from the original Sanskrit syllables up to the modern scientific applications of this profound verse. Let's jump right in.
Let us first ground ourselves by looking directly at the ancient scripture itself.
Right here in this authentic manuscript, we see the absolute foundation of our exegesis. It reads, Jnana jnanam tatad jnayam, drashta darshanad drisyabhu, karta hetu kriya yasmat, tasmai janaptiat mane nama. Now, take a second to just absorb the structure of that text. I mean, even if you don't read a word of Sanskrit, you can kind of feel the rhythmic grouping of the words, right? It's a brilliantly dense encoding of how we experience reality itself.
To truly grasp this wisdom, we need to meticulously break down the exact words used by the sage Valmiki. Let's look at the literal meaning.
The direct, literal translation offers this beautiful homage to the absolute source of all existence. Ultimately, the verse is a salutation, a bowing down. But here's the kicker. It's not bowing down to a person or some deity in the sky. No, it's bowing down to that supreme, underlying reality from which all of our individual, day-to-day experiences emerge. You'll notice the verse actually lists out these experiences in sets of 3, which is incredibly important to understand.
Valmiki brilliantly categorizes absolutely all of human experience into these 3 fundamental triads, which are known in Sanskrit as tripudis. Think of it like a giant map of consciousness. First, we have the realm of the intellect. Janata is the knower, Janami is the knowledge, and Drayam is the known. Next up, in the realm of perception, Drashta is the seer, Darshana is the act of seeing, and Drishapun is the object seen. And finally, in the realm of action, Karta is the doer, Hetu is the cause or the instrument, and Kriya is the action performed. Seriously, think about it for a second. Every single thing you have ever experienced in your entire life fits perfectly into one of these 3 alignments. It's just a profoundly comprehensive framework for categorizing how we interact with the world around us.
So what does this all mean? Beyond the literal words lies the absolute core tenet of Advaita Vedanta. Let's dig into the philosophy.
The crucially important point here revolves around the final word of the verse, jnaptiat mane. Everything we just talked about in that previous categorization, the knower, the seeing, the action, the object, it all completely collapses into this one singular absolute reality. Jnaptiat mane translates to the supreme consciousness, or the self whose very nature is pure awareness. The philosophical claim here is literally earth-shattering. It asserts that the subject looking out, the world being looked at, and the actual act of looking are not 3 separate things. No way. They are all just temporary manifestations of one singular, undivided consciousness.
Let's visualize this to make it a bit more concrete. Imagine an entire, unbroken circle representing pure consciousness, jnapyata mane. Now, due to what Vedanta calls avidya, or spiritual ignorance, this unified whole appears to our minds as fragmented. It splits into 3 distinct segments: the subject, the process, and the object. You walk around thinking you're the observer sitting inside your head, looking out at a completely separate observed world. But as this thought experiment shows us, that separation is basically an illusion. The lines dividing these segments, they're just cognitive boundaries. Beneath it all, it is one continuous, unbroken circle of awareness.
Now, things get incredibly fascinating when we start connecting this ancient spiritual framework to modern scientific paradigms. Notice how this ancient Vedic concept of unity perfectly parallels the modern observer effect. It's wild. On one side, Advaita Vedanta tells us that the observer and the observed are simply one consciousness. And on the other side, modern quantum mechanics tells us pretty much the exact same thing. You cannot separate the observer from the observed system. The very act of observation dictates how reality manifests at a subatomic level. Plus, in cognitive science, we now know for a fact that what you see isn't some objective reality out there, but a construct created by your brain's processing. So modern science is mathematically arriving at the exact same conclusion that the sage Valmiki wrote down thousands of years ago, that the separation between you and the world is a mere cognitive construct. How amazing is that?
But of course, abstract philosophy is only really useful if it actually transforms how we live, right? So how do we apply this?
By realizing you are actually the underlying supreme consciousness, and not just this fragile ego, you can navigate daily life with a profound sense of peace. First off, you learn to detach from the doer or karta ego. When you succeed, you won't be overly arrogant, and when you fail, you won't be completely crushed. Why? Because you realize that you, as an isolated doer, are just playing a temporary role. Second, recognize our profound interconnectedness. Empathy becomes completely natural when you realize the person you're talking to is just another manifestation of the exact same consciousness that you are. Third, you learn to observe life's challenges without getting completely tangled up in them. You become the drashta, the pure witness, watching anxiety or stress rise and fall without identifying with it. And finally, realize the external world is a projection. If the world is a reflection of consciousness, changing your internal state literally changes the world you experience. That's a real game changer.
Let us gather the fruits of our inquiry and summarize the ultimate essence of this teaching.
All duality is merely a dance of the singular supreme consciousness. This is the ultimate takeaway we need to hold on to. The knower, the knowledge, and the known. They are all just ripples on the surface of a single infinite ocean. Realizing this completely destroys fear. I mean, how can the ocean be afraid of its own waves? This realization of deep unity is the absolutely critical foundation required before we step into the grand, complex narrative that begins to unfold in verse 3. You now have the exact lens through which to view this entire epic.
On behalf of the Vedmata AI family, we humbly request that if you found our presentation enlightening, please share our video widely so that authentic knowledge from Indian Vedic texts can reach everyone. Let us all come together to participate in this Gyan Yajna, offering of knowledge. Har Har Maharamayana.